Hello, I'm Andrew from Limitless Park, and welcome to my new game show I like to call How Will Cedar Point Cover Up Their Silly Mistakes This Time? Well, Cedar Point, what do you have for us today? Wow, I don't even remember what I was supposed to make fun of.
Cedar Point has done something very strange and announced a new roller coaster for 2025 called Siren Curse.
Why is this so strange? Well, they're not exactly done opening their current new coaster.
Now, I'm not going to mention the name of said coaster due to it making me want to become professionally dehydrated, but it's safe to say that introducing Siren Curse to the park could make the future of that other ride even more questionable. Like, is getting this other brand new roller coaster admitting that the first one is having more problems than they expected? And after pushing it back from 2024 to 2025, will it potentially have to be pushed back even further? Is there even a chance that it just ends up getting torn down completely? So many questions. But whatever, out of the few types of roller coasters Cedar Point doesn't have, a tilt coaster is one of them. And that's because barely any parks in the entire world have tilt coasters.
So what the heck is a tilt coaster, and why should you care that Cedar Point is getting one? Well, let's dive into the very brief history of this freaky roller coaster type and find out why it's such an interesting addition.
Now, prior to 2002, there had been a couple attempts to create something along the lines of a tilt coaster. Roller coaster manufacturer Giovanola introduced a prototype tilting coaster called Terror Tilter in 2000, but none were built because theme parks probably realized they'd rather offer their guests rat poison before they offer them a Giovanola coaster. Technically, a different coaster with a tilting element was actually built, that being Winges at Phantasialand in Germany, but that's a dual spinning coaster with an elevator lift that tilts riders as it goes up, and even though I don't doubt that a tilt happens at some point, I swear I've watched a POV of this over and over and I just can't understand where the actual tilt section is at all. Plus, the almighty roller coaster database doesn't list this coaster as having a tilt track like the rest of the rides we're talking about today, so as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't count. So let's just say our journey starts where any good journey starts, in Taiwan. Manufacturer Vekoma has made a name for themselves by opening garbage, garbage, and more garbage. But to their credit, the company also had plenty of experience working on more positively received coasters. I mean, they did Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and Big Thunder Mountain at Disneyland Paris, and Space Mountain at Disneyland Paris. Yeah, things really only worked out for Vekoma when they were working with Disney. But regardless, this new coaster they were developing was looking to give guests a case of the "what the hell is that?" with its new tilting element. This is Gravity Max, which opened up in 2002 at Discovery World in Taiwan.
Why Discovery World in Taiwan? Well, the park already opened up the world-class Minor Express Junior coaster in 2001, but they definitely needed at least one supporting roller coaster in case riders got tired of marathoning that.
Anyways, advertised as a tilt coaster, but also called a cliffhanger, riders head up Gravity Max's lift hill before braking on a horizontal platform. Then, with the coaster train attached, a piece of track tilts forward until it's completely vertical, so riders can get a terrifying view of the ground directly below them. Then the train is released and it flies through the rest of the coaster's layout.
Now, if you're someone whose heart skipped like 1 or 20 beats while watching this thing, thinking it was gonna fly off the track in some sort of Final Destination-like scenario, then allow me to calm your nerves by explaining just how this tilt track system works.
Once the train gets to the end of that initial platform, the rear car is grabbed by a hook that holds it during the tilt. It's just like fishing, except instead of a fish, it's a giant roller coaster that weighs multiple tons, and you're sitting in the coaster. Hopefully you're not too big of a fish or it might snap.
Oh god, wait, this is my handbook on how to increase someone's anxiety. Sorry about that.
Hopefully it's obvious that I'm just kidding around and that hook isn't the only thing holding the ride in place. There's also a large block of steel at the front of the track segment that prevents the coaster from rolling off in the event of some sort of mechanical failure. Once everything is in line and ready to go, the block is pulled away so the ride can continue. This failsafe actually kicked in at least once back in 2019, and even though the media of course blew it out of proportion at the time, it's great to know that everything worked as designed and that the coaster has continued to operate just fine. The website Coaster 101 actually has a great article detailing this whole safety system further if you want to give that a read. So we've covered Gravity Max's tilt track element, but what about the rest of the ride? Well, after the 90-degree drop, you fly through a tunnel, that's pretty cool. You go into a loop, that's pretty cool. And then you go through a helix, that's pretty cool. And then, oh, it's over. Am I allowed to be disappointed? Yeah, so obviously the ride's main draw is the tilt section, and I'm sure it's awesome, but just going off the rest of the ride and comparing it to similar coasters I've actually ridden, and this sucks. Like, it almost reminds me of those early B&M dive coaster models, you know, like the really early ones like Oblivion at Alton Towers, and that other one that's also strangely located in Taiwan, how it's literally just the dive drop and that's it. This feels similar. At least Gravity Max has a loop after the drop, but like, still, this layout is super barren. But whatever, they made the coaster tilt and now it scares the hell out of riders on the daily, so I'd say Vekoma succeeded in what they set out to do. Now, you'd think all sorts of theme parks would spring at the chance to build a ride as crazy as Gravity Max, right?
Wrong!
Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you. After Gravity Max, 14 years would pass before another tilt coaster would be built. Okay, technically Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts at Universal Studios Florida has a tilt track, but it's also more of a dark ride than a coaster, and it was built by Intamin, not Vekoma, so I feel like it only deserves a footnote in this whole discussion.
That's not to say we're only focusing on Vekoma tilt coasters though, as for these next few rides, they're completely out of the picture. But as my great-grandfather once said, when Vekoma lets us down, it's time for Chinese manufacturer Gymna Rides to come in and pick up the slack. He was a man of many odd phrases.
Yeah, so Gymna Rides. If you haven't heard of them, don't worry. I hadn't either until researching this. The company's website says it was founded in 2007, but after looking further, it seems like they were still around under the name Golden Horse starting in 1983, and that name sounds a bit more familiar to me. Throughout their entire history, they've built around 400 roller coasters, and it looks like just under 300 are still around today, including my personal favorite, Surf's Up Duck Duck Goose in Wuxai Sunak Land, which I can only imagine is themed to my favorite surfing penguin movie and my favorite schoolyard game, so it's safe to say they have quite the portfolio. Their first attempt at the tilt coaster would come in 2016, except they would call their model the Broken Rail Coaster. This first coaster would be named Battle of the Jungle King and would open at Hefei Sunak Land in Baohei, Hefei, Anhui, China. Whew.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of me not pronouncing locations correctly in this episode. Feel free to have a laugh about it and tell me how much of a freaking goofball I am.
But can I just say that Gymna Rides really beat Vekoma at their own game with this thing? Not only would the ride feature a tilt track and more elements than just a loop, but it's literally a dueling roller coaster. There's two tracks here that mirror and interact with each other. One side is called the Tiger Track and the other is the Dragon Track. And while it is a bit stranger that the Tiger Track has one less inversion than the Dragon, it does make for two slightly unique layouts and a reason to ride each side, even if the Dragon side definitely looks way better. Like, come on, that double barrel roll looks sick. I love how it flips right into the helix like that. Meanwhile, the Tiger side could probably put me to sleep. Like, look at this helix. This is what me's in the coaster community call a nap time for babies helix.
But overall, I'd say Gymna Rides' first tilt coaster, or Broken Rail Coaster, is a success. How does their next one stack up? Damn, the roller coaster naming department was really working overtime on this one, huh?
Yeah, so 2 years later, Gymna Rides returned with another Broken Rail Coaster called Broken Rail Coaster. This time at Great Shingdong Tourist World in Puding, Anshun, Guizhou, China. Actually, this whole park is really to the point when it comes to naming their rides. They've got a hanging roller coaster where the coaster trains are hanging, a motorcycle roller coaster where the coaster trains are motorcycles, and we can't forget Super Roller Coaster, which is in fact a super roller coaster. Anyways, Broken Rail Coaster isn't a dueling tilt coaster like Battle of Jungle King, but it makes up for it by having 5 whole inversions. It's got a sidewinder, a cobra roll which counts for 2, a corkscrew, and an inline twist. Now that's what I call a layout. Now I couldn't actually find any POVs for this Broken Rail Coaster, and the whole park seems to have sketchy operations since its opening in 2018 with minimal attractions actually operating, so I don't know what's going on here. Instead, the footage you're seeing is from an exact clone of this ride, which we'll cover right now.
Damn, the roller coaster naming department was really working overtime on this one, huh? Wait, grab script. Didn't I just say this? Oh wait, I did. It's like me reading the script out loud now because I said it in the previous section, and now I'm doing some sort of fourth wall breaking joke that I honestly don't really like but feel obligated to do because it'll be funny to see future Andrew perform all this? You know, when time travel's invented, the first thing I'm doing is going back and kicking past Andrew in the balls.
Why am I doing these wacky skits instead of talking to you about the actual roller coaster? Well, it's like I said, this is an exact clone of the first Broken Rail Coaster. Sujiao Amusement Land Forest World is definitely a more built out and seemingly reliable theme park. I mean, come on, they also have a massive Mack Rides launch coaster, that's pretty sick. And I mean, I guess I like the paint scheme better on this Broken Rail Coaster than the first one, but other than that, I got nothing else to say. Maybe the next one will be better though. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, the name for this one might be different than the previous two, and I might at least be able to pronounce the park name this time, but don't let that fool you. This is another clone of the Broken Rail Coaster KSC-24B model from Gymna Rides. And I mean, I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I definitely said this layout was by far the best earlier, with Gravity Max's being super lame and Battle of the Jungle King being more of a step up in theming and the unique dueling aspect rather than the layout, so I don't really want to complain too much here. It's just kinda tough when Gymna Rides isn't giving me a whole lot to talk about. Like, congratulations guys, you're currently the king of tilt coasters, but you gotta do something else to make me feel. This is the only coaster at WowStock Happy Island though, and the coaster opened with the park on October 1st, 2023, and it's really hard to find any information about this park online, so it's almost like this park doesn't really exist. Okay, scratch that, I feel fear.
So as of now, that's pretty much the past and present of tilt coasters in the world. They almost exclusively exist in Asian countries, and the company that initially started building them has almost completely been overshadowed by a different company, which basically just clones the same ride over and over. If this was a part of an actual history class, I wouldn't blame you for falling asleep. Tilt coasters started out pretty interesting, but they got lame pretty fast.
But all of a sudden, Vekoma comes back with a vengeance. They're seeking to breathe some new life into this ride type with at least 3 new tilt coasters as of the making of this episode. First up, Circuit Breaker at Codaland. Codaland is an up-and-coming theme park located at the Circuit of Americas Raceway near Austin, Texas. The park kinda exists now, but they're looking to expand it with not 1, but 2 massive roller coasters. The first one announced was a Gerstlauer Infinity shuttle coaster called Palindrome, and the second was Circuit Breaker, a brand new tilt coaster using Vekoma's brand new Pitfall model. Now I wish this Pitfall name had some super cool reasoning or backstory behind it, but in reality it's just because it has different stats than the other Cliffhanger model we'll be talking about in a bit, and they wanted to give them both unique names. I mean, the small blurbs on Vekoma's website for each coaster is almost the exact same thing, barring some minor changes in wording as well as the ride stats. But that's not to say those stats aren't impressive. Vekoma states that Circuit Breaker will tilt riders in the back to a height of 40 meters, or about 131 feet. For reference, Gravity Max is 114 feet tall, so the new coaster will definitely be a bit taller. And while that's not quite as impressive as Gymna Ride's 5 inversion tilt coasters, it'll still make for a thrilling layout. The first 2 inversions, a rollover camelback and a barrel roll down drop, are actually somewhat unique and can't be found on a ton of other roller coasters, so that's reason enough to check this out once it opens.
Oh yeah, I've ridden Iron Rattler, big fan. It's that one RMC at Six Flags Fiesta Texas with the cliff drop and the weird ass cube. I love that ride. Oh, hold up, I'm getting a phone call from Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Hello?
That's not me, man. That's not me!
Oh God!
Six Flags has tainted the Goliath name by plastering it everywhere. They've ruined DC ride names like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Joker by giving a million different rides the same name. The one thing I thought they couldn't ruin was their somewhat cool and unique RMC names, but they ruined it. They ruined the names, not the names!
Alright, I might have gotten a little carried away there. I just like it when theme parks have unique names for their roller coasters, and even though Six Flags is usually the worst offender with copy-pasting ride names, most of their RMCs tend to stray away from that. I said most.
But whatever, it's not like this new Iron Rattler is going to an American Six Flags park, because it's actually opening at Six Flags Qiddiya City in Saudi Arabia. You may know this park as the pipe dream that seems like it won't ever open, or the one building the insane Falcon's Flight coaster, which will be the longest, tallest, and fastest coaster if and when it opens. But if it does open, it's gonna have a lot more coasters than just Falcon's Flight. One of those is Iron Rattler, another one of Vekoma's new generation tilt coasters. According to RCDB, this one has a custom layout, meaning it doesn't fall under the predetermined Pitfall or Cliffhanger models. There's also some notes that the layout might not be 100% set in stone, as Roller Coaster Database says something about the stall loop missing, and the 0G rolls and barrel rolls might not be in the correct order. There's not exactly any good images of the full layout to show just how everything will connect, but hopefully in time we'll get more details and be able to piece together the whole thing. In the meantime, the Six Flags Qiddiya City website does offer a small tidbit of backstory for the roller coaster's theme, which is pretty interesting.
You see, Six Flags isn't really known for having top-of-the-line theming. That said, Six Flags Qiddiya isn't exactly a true Six Flags theme park and is instead just licensing the Six Flags name. So you can definitely tell the owners are trying to give the park a more thematic feel. Case in point, a basic shooting dark ride. We've never seen that before at a Six Flags park, and one single table service restaurant. Okay, that's actually new for a Six Flags park.
But the lands for the park are set to have some decent theming, and a good example of that is Steamtown, which is the land that Iron Rattler is located in. The area is basically a steampunk realm akin to something like Screampunk District in Magic Mountain, but with the theming increased tenfold. This is seen in Iron Rattler, whose backstory states that the ride is actually a remnant of the Iron Rattler Mining Company, and guests who board the coaster are set to follow the exciting path of the many prospectors before them. Whoa! The website also has some fun facts about the ride listed, such as the track length being twice the height of the Tokyo Skytree building. That's good to know because I'm only able to measure things based on the height of the Tokyo Skytree.
Yep, that's about 1/678 of a Tokyo Skytree.
And according to this, Iron Rattler is also taller than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris.
I mean, so is two Arc de Triomphes, or should I say 41/260ths of a Tokyo Skytree, so I wouldn't say that's that impressive.
But that's enough goofing around in Saudi Arabia. We got one more tilt coaster to talk about. Time to go back to where we first started. Out of nowhere, in September 2024, Cedar Point announced they would be adding a tilt coaster called Siren Curse to the park.
Despite this announcement seemingly coming out of the blue, it doesn't mean that the tilt coaster just magically appeared out of nowhere. To all you Six Flags Mexico fans, pour yourself a glass.
So, kinda a dirty story with this one. If it seems too good to be true for Cedar Point to just magically announce a tilt coaster randomly within a week of teasing something, you'd be correct, because all signs point towards this ride initially being planned for Six Flags Mexico. Well, actually it was initially going to be built at Energylandia in Poland, but after the park decided to cancel that project, Six Flags swooped in and purchased the coaster and sent it to Six Flags Mexico. However, it seems like Six Flags Mexico wasn't able to get the proper permits filed in order to actually build the roller coaster in time, and instead of waiting longer, the Six Flags chain just decided to send it elsewhere. So that sucks. Six Flags Mexico hasn't gotten a new coaster since 2018, and even then it was just a 4D free spin. But hey, maybe they'll send it to a different park in the chain that needs it. Maybe Six Flags St. Louis, which hasn't gotten a big coaster since 2013.
Nuh-uh.
Oh, well, maybe Six Flags America, which has a similar problem?
Nope.
Well, they just merged with Cedar Fair. Maybe it'll go to one of those parks that needs it. Oh, like Valley Fair. It would fit awesome there.
Try again.
I mean, Carowinds is getting a family coaster in 2025, but I suppose they could also be getting a tilt coaster. Could it be them?
Well, you got the double coaster idea right, but the park is still wrong.
But the only park left is... Oh God, no, they don't deserve it. No.
I'm arguing with my own voiceover.
Yeah, so Cedar Point stole Six Flags Mexico's tilt coaster. Wah. But hey, if Ol Unreliable is going to continue to have problems in 2025, it's probably a good idea to distract the public with a shiny new coaster, so I get it. And honestly, Siren's Curse is a pretty cool name that'll hopefully have some spooky mermaid theming going along with it, and the layout doesn't look half bad either. This is the aforementioned cliffhanger model from Vekoma, which again doesn't seem to have too much to differentiate it outside of some stats. Unlike Iron Rattler though, we have a full animation of the ride that shows off the entire layout. It'll beat out Circuit Breaker as the longest, tallest, and fastest tilt coaster in North America, and while it won't have as many inversions as that one, its two corkscrews still look to be very fun. And who knows, despite Siren's Curse getting unveiled well after Iron Rattler and Circuit Breaker, it still could be the first of Vekoma's next-gen tilt coasters to open. I would honestly bet on it, as the others have only seen delays, while Cedar Point will likely want to get this open as soon as possible to cover up their other disappointing child.
So that's a short summary of the past, present, and future of tilt coasters. Obviously, they're not the most prevalent rides out there, but maybe if these next three do really well, they'll become a super popular addition for other parks. I already made the comparison to dive coasters earlier, but I could see them being just as lucrative of an investment for theme parks as long as they're proven to be reliable.
Right now, there are 17 B&M dive coasters in the world, with one on the way. If the tilt coasters prove to be a success, maybe one day we'll see them approach that number too.
In the meantime, I can't really talk too much more about tilt coasters, but what I can do is demonstrate how they work. For this, I'll be using my trusty table. I got this one at the table store. Now you see, I'm just gonna tilt this forward gently, thus emulating the tilt from a tilt coaster until eventually...
Hello, this is Tommy Table's Table Stable. How can I help you?
Hi, yeah, what's your return policy?